We are back to Eldora Speedway, Rossburg, Ohio. The Pennzoil World of Outlaws in action for the 14th annual Kings Royal. Ralph Sheen alongside of Brad Doty, Bobby Gerald, and Dave Reef working fifth lane here for you tonight. And you know, anytime you want to go to the races and you're looking for the best places to hang out, there's really only one person who knows all the cool spots, and that's the other guy in our broadcasting crew, Steve Evans.
Well, thank you, Ralph. And folks, do you want a VIP suite at Eldora Speedway? No problem. Bring your own. Look at the motorhomes circled high above turns 1 and 2. Now you say, oh, it'd probably take, reservations months in advance, cost a couple $100. Not here. The Earl says, first come, first serve, $6 a night, and you can camp for a week if you want. And let me tell you, the variety of vehicles up here is incredible. You don't have to be a millionaire. You don't have to be a thousandaire. In fact, there's a pickup truck with a camper on it I wouldn't give $500 for. But all in all, just another facet of Eldora Speedway. Everybody still having a good time. And you know, the technology in sprint car racing is ever changing. And Dave Reef earlier found out that includes motors as well, especially when it comes to how do you get the air and the methanol into that motor.
We hear all the time about how drivers try to dial in their sprint cars to the racetrack. Well, Andy Hillenberg goes one step further with his STP Sprinter. He dials in his motor to the racetrack. How does he do that? A brand new injection system developed by Tim Engler. Now, what normally is a one-piece plenum butterfly system is now two pieces. The butterfly comes off with 8 bolts. What's the advantage? Well, you can change the amount of air that goes into the engine. If you're on a big, heavy racetrack and need the throttle wide open, you just put in these large diameter butterflies. But what happens when the track slicks off or you move to a smaller racetrack? You just pop off these 8 bolts, put in a little bit of a smaller diameter butterfly. The absolute best part about this, instead of changing the entire motor, you just change the butterfly, and it takes 10 minutes.
That can make a big difference, can't it?
Yes, it can. That's just one of the things that you fine-tune the race car. These guys are always looking for an edge, and you do it with gear, stagger, headers sometimes, and now the fuel injection.
It's amazing.
It is.
Always evolving, and now they're not making the big gains by these things that they've done in the last couple of years. Now we're talking about a couple of tenths on the clock.
Hundreds. These guys are looking for hundreds. It's getting that particular now.
Bobby Gerald, what do you have for us?
Well, I have the man who drives #1 Australia, and he has opened some eyes this weekend at Eldora Speedway, and that, of course, is Gary Brazier, a 3-time Australian national titleist. And Gary, I mean, you really have opened some eyes here. Second quick tonight. You finished 6th last night. You've taken to this speedway very easily. You're comfortable?
Yeah, I'm real comfortable, whenever I can get to a racetrack when you're wide open up against the wall, I feel we're pretty decent around there. And we've put this new car together off Brian Schnee and the Chrono Racing engine. Everything's just working really well right now.
No offense, but it'd be a huge upset if you could win the Kings Royal tonight and take home $50,000 American. You'd be pretty happy about that?
Well, this is one of the races in my whole life that I've dreamed about winning, and, everybody out there has got a good chance of winning. I don't expect to go out there and win. If I can run in the top 6 like I did last night, I'd be really happy. But that 50 grand could sure come in handy.
You'd be telling your friends about it for a long time over there.
I'd be telling everybody about it for a long time.
Gary Brazier, hoping for the best in his first ever Kings Royal run.
And he really could be one of the drivers to keep an eye on here later. He's been quick all weekend long, as you heard Bobby say. We'll be back with plenty more from Eldora coming up. There's a good look at the back straightaway here, and as you can see down there at turn 2, it really starts to narrow up, and you've got to have a good run off of that. And that turn 2 area was a real tough spot for one guy last night, Steve Kinzer, standing by with Bobby.
Well, Steve Kinzer is going to be starting on the outside of the front row. Steve, we talked with Sammy Swindell a couple of moments ago, and he said that he didn't think the pole was the best place to be. He thought you had the best starting spot. Do you agree?
You never know. We'll see when it starts. Normally the outside's a little better, but we'll just see what happens.
How much does your adrenaline get flowing before these big money races, the first one in the month of money?
Come back. I didn't hear you there.
Your adrenaline, how much does it flow?
It does. It gets up there a little bit, so we'll just see what happens.
All right, Steve Kinzer is always very focused when he gets inside of a sprint car. He starts to go through his routine right now as he gets set on the run for 50 grand.
Steve Kinzer, you can never count him out, even though the car hasn't been as quick as this car, the one he's running tonight, is not as quick as the one he ran last night, Brad, but you can never count him out.
Well, he talked earlier about the frame rails banging. This car was built for the mile. They've raised the torsion tubes in the car, which puts the frame closer down to the ground. So at Eldora, when he gets in the corners, the car gets down and it bangs the frame rail, upsets the car, and makes him want to slide toward the wall. So that's definitely not to his advantage right now. He's got Scott Gherkin right there working on the left rear. He's checking the air pressure. He's one of the best there is, and he'll do everything he can to compensate for it and make sure he gets Steve comfortable.
And this is an amazing group of stats here. Mark Kinzer, look at how he is done in so many different categories. Quick times, 19 of them. Track records, 9. Top 5 finishes, 40. Brad, the thing that amazes me as you look at this, remember the first year that he teamed up with his father, Carl, he only ran a handful of the races, but they won a lot of them. Last year, they ran together. He wins the championship after running all season together. This year, he's not running all the races because he's doing the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Tour on a couple of events, so he's not going to be in the competition for the points championship this year. If he had run 3 full seasons with his father, you could argue he might be going for his 3rd World of Outlaw Championship this year.
Yeah, and that's not much of an argument either.
No, it's not.
The way he's dominated the money earnings and everything in the wins, the races he skipped, if he'd just finished well, he'd probably be well out in front of
Carl Kinzer,
point lead.
A real genius when it comes to wrenching cars, and Mark Kinzer's turning out to be quite a driver behind the wheel, isn't he?
Oh, he certainly is, and I tell you what, he just reappeared from out of his trailer. I looked for him, I couldn't find him, but when he came out, I looked in his eyes. I had seen a race face like no other. Mark, you're getting ready to go into the King's Royal here. We talked about it earlier, a race you've never won. Again, now you're already in. What does it mean?
Well, it means the world to me and to my sponsors. Now it's come down to give or take, and hopefully we can take. It's going to be a tough track and a lot of good cars ahead of us and behind us, so it's going to be a damn tough race tonight.
It's the only race he hasn't won with his father. We'll find out in 40 laps. Bobby Gerald?
Well, I tell you what, guys, I think the crowd is still buzzing from last night and also from this afternoon when we saw the heat races, and Dave Blaney got right up there close to the fence and came in second to Jack Hodenshield. Dave, you start 9th tonight. You're going to have to put it right up there against the wall?
Well, I'm sure that's where the fast road's going to be. You have to get up there and get some momentum going and see if you can dive under the guy in the next corner. But, I'd much rather be up in the first couple rows, but if we can get there from 9th if we're operating good enough.
Are you superstitious at all, Dave? You won in 93 and 95. This is an odd year.
I'm not superstitious at all.
All right, just food for thought.
Dave Blaney will tell you he's nothing but a racer.
No superstition, just a lot of hard work and for that whole crew and a lot of dedication, and it's sure paying off for him.
Do you think that Dave Blaney and Jack Hodenshield are the 2 best you've ever seen run these high banks?
I'm probably going to get in trouble, but yes, I do. I mean, Doug Wolfgang and Steve Kinzer for years, put on great shows. But those 2 guys, after that, especially that heat race stuff for the last few years, arguably, they have to be the best lately.
This has nothing to do with the fact that your residence is in Apple Creek, Ohio.
It's down the road from Hogg. We grew up together. No, it really doesn't. I mean, he gives me goosebumps, him and Blaney both, and especially after that heat race. It's going to be a great show here in the main event.
Well, he's standing by with Dave Reef, and Dave, I got to agree with Brad here. I think Jack is one of the best on the high banks here.
Oh, he certainly is. There is no doubt about it. And then looking inside the Jackpot Junction car, Team Pennzoil obviously ready to go. They're very number 1 in the push-off lane. Jack, what's going on in your head right now, and what are the plans for tonight's King's Royal?
Well, we're just, it's 40 laps, so we're just going to try and keep up with the front runners there and see what happens right there at the end. If we can keep up with them, I think maybe we can get around them at the end.
With a name like Wild Child, what's the key? Is it patience?
Yeah, you just kind of got to pace yourself and make sure you definitely keep up with them and don't let them get too far away. And we should be right there at the end.
Well, I think everyone knows Jack Hodenschild's pace. That's foot to the floor.
There is no doubt about where Jack Hodenshield is going to plant his foot when Doug Clark throws the green through the floorboards. The King's Royal coming up. Welcome back. We're getting close to the beginning of the 14th annual King's Royal. They are pushing off all the cars except for one. Dave Reef with the story.
it's the Gold Eagle 7TW Jeff Swindell crew hard at work. They've already lost one motor tonight due to a push rod problem. They've lost their second one. They're trying to get that push rod thing fixed right now. Crew hard at it. I don't know if they're going to make it out. And keep in mind, they are using a provisional. Steve Evans?
Well, Dave, an awful lot of people here tonight don't have a seat, but that doesn't seem to be dampening their enthusiasm. And we've already talked to a lot of the drivers. Let's talk to some of the fans and see who they'd like to win the 50 grand tonight. Who would you like to see win tonight?
Kenny Jacobs.
Kenny Jacobs. Good choice. And you?
Kenny Jacobs.
I think we ran into a Kenny Jacobs. How about you?
Well, I'd say, I'd have to say Dave.
Dave Blaney?
Dave Blaney has got it, yep.
Gotta be a Buckeye. I think I know who you want by the shirt.
Hoddenchild.
I had a feeling. How about you?
Jack Hoddenfield all the way.
And you?
Wild Child, Jack Hoddenfield.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll give you a hat if you can tell me what driver is qualified for the A-main for all 13 Kings Royals for this beautiful hat.
Qualified for what?
All 13 Kings Royals has made the field the A-main for all 13.
Steve Kinzer, probably.
Steve Kinzer. What a catcher you are. All right, Ralph Shaheen, let's go racing, bud.